Hello, my amazing learners, and welcome back to the Wisdom English podcast. My name is Sarah, and today I want to do something a little different. Instead of focusing on a single topic, I want to share my entire personal journey of learning English with you, the real story, with all of its challenges, its frustrations, its breakthroughs, and its joys. Learning English has been one of the most important and transformative experiences of my life. It unlocked so many doors for me in my education, in my career, and most wonderfully, in connecting with incredible people from all around the world. But it wasn't a straight line. There were moments of doubt and times I felt stuck. I know many of you are on this same journey right now. You know how important this skill is, but sometimes the path feels long and difficult. That is why I want to share my story with you today, from the very beginning. We will walk through the exact strategies I used, the obstacles I faced and how I overcame them, and the key tips that made the biggest difference. This is not just a lesson, it's a roadmap based on real experience. I hope that by sharing my struggles and successes, I can inspire and guide you on your own English learning journey. Remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint, and every single step you take brings you closer to your goal. So, let's dive into my experience together. Part 1. Beginning the journey. When I first started learning English, it honestly felt like trying to climb a huge, intimidating mountain. I would look up at its peak, the goal of fluency, and it seemed impossibly far away. The grammar rules were a confusing maze, and the sheer volume of vocabulary felt endless. My first attempts to speak were clumsy, and my initial efforts were met with a wave of frustration and self-doubt. I think many of you might know this feeling. However, I knew that to have any chance of success, I had to immerse myself in the language as much as possible. I had to make English a part of my world. My very first step was simple yet surprisingly effective. I decided to bring English into my physical home. I began by labeling common items all around my house with their English names. I wrote refrigerator on a sticky note and put it on my fridge. Mirror on my mirror, window on my window, table on my table. This constant visual reminder was powerful. It helped my brain automatically associate the English words with the everyday objects I used, making vocabulary learning practical and less abstract than just memorizing lists from a book. Listening to English songs became another key part of my immersion strategy, and this was the fun part. At first, I chose songs with very clear lyrics and catchy, repetitive phrases. This made it much easier to catch and understand the words. I would listen to these songs over and over again, reading the lyrics and trying to sing along. This practice was incredible. It not only improved my vocabulary but also helped my pronunciation and gave me a natural feel for the rhythm and flow of the English language. Over time, as my confidence grew, I began to understand more complex lyrics and could appreciate the beautiful nuances of the songs. To build a solid foundation, I knew I needed some structure, so I enrolled in an English language course. The structured environment of the classroom was exactly what I needed at the beginning. It helped me grasp the basics. My instructor focused on essential grammar rules and fundamental vocabulary. While these were initially challenging, they were absolutely crucial for my progress. In the class, we practiced all 4 core skill speaking, listening, reading, and writing, ensuring that no aspect of my learning was left behind. The classroom setting also gave me the wonderful opportunity to interact with other learners, to share our experiences, and to motivate each other when things got tough. Of course, one of the earliest and biggest challenges I faced was understanding and using English grammar. The grammar rules were often so different from those in my native language, and this frequently led to confusion and mistakes. To tackle this, I armed myself with grammar workbooks and explored online resources that provided clear explanations and, most importantly, plenty of practice exercises. I dedicated a specific time each day just to study grammar, focusing on only one rule at a time. This approach of breaking down the learning process into small, manageable parts made it feel much less overwhelming. Reading also became a cornerstone of my learning journey. Like many beginners, I started with children's books. They used simple language and were often beautifully illustrated, which really helped in understanding the context of the story. As my confidence grew, I graduated to young adult novels and then eventually to more complex literature. Reading was a game changer. It not only expanded my vocabulary exponentially, but also exposed me to countless different writing styles and sentence structures. I kept a dedicated vocabulary notebook where I wrote down every new word and its meaning, and I made it a habit to regularly review this list. Watching English movies and TV shows with subtitles was another highly effective strategy. Initially, I watched with subtitles in my native language just to understand the plot and context. Then, I took a brave step and switched to English subtitles. This was incredible for my learning, as it helped me match the spoken words I was hearing with their written forms. This practice dramatically improved my listening skills and familiarized me with everyday, natural, conversational English. I made it a habit to note down any new or interesting phrases and idiomatic expressions I encountered and then tried to use them in my own sentences. Practicing speaking was perhaps the most daunting, yet ultimately the most rewarding, part of my early journey. I had to force myself to seek out opportunities to converse in English, even if it meant stepping far outside of my comfort zone. I joined language exchange programs where I could practice speaking with native English speakers. These conversations were incredibly beneficial, providing real-life practice and immediate feedback. At first, I was so nervous and made so many mistakes, but over time, my confidence grew and I could feel my speaking skills improving with each conversation. I also discovered the power of technology. Using language learning apps became a daily habit. These apps provided interactive exercises, fun vocabulary games, and daily practice reminders that kept me engaged. Apps that used spaced repetition systems were particularly useful for memorizing vocabulary, as they ensured I reviewed words at the optimal intervals for long-term retention. In addition to this structured learning, I also tried to think in English as much as possible. This was very challenging at first, as my mind would naturally revert to my native language. However, with conscious practice, I found myself gradually starting to form thoughts in English, which greatly improved my fluency and the speed at which I could form sentences. Finally, I focused on writing. I kept a daily journal where I wrote about my day, my thoughts, and any new words I had learned. This daily practice helped me apply new vocabulary and grammar rules in a practical, personal context. Over time, I noticed my writing becoming more coherent and natural. Throughout this initial phase, I realized the profound importance of patience and persistence. There were many times when progress felt painfully slow, and it was easy to get discouraged. However, by setting small, achievable goals and celebrating each tiny milestone, I stayed motivated. Each new word learned, each successful conversation, and each book read was a step forward. By immersing myself in the language, using a variety of learning methods, and most importantly, staying consistent, I gradually overcame the initial challenges. My journey was far from over, but these foundational steps had set me firmly on the path to becoming proficient in English. Part 2. Developing effective strategies. As I progressed beyond the beginner stage, I discovered several specific strategies that significantly accelerated my improvement. These methods not only made my learning more effective, but also much more enjoyable, which was key to staying motivated for the long haul. One of the most effective methods was being very intentional about reading English books that matched my level. I started with simple children's books, and I highly recommend titles like The Very Hungry Caterpillar or Where the Wild Things Are for any beginner. They are engaging and provide a solid foundation. As I gained more confidence, I moved to young adult novels. The Harry Potter series, for example, was perfect because the language complexity grows with each book, allowing your skills to grow with the story. Reading these novels helped me expand my vocabulary and expose me to more sophisticated sentence structures. I made it a point to underline new words and phrases, and I would later look up their meanings and write them down. I also started writing short summaries of the chapters to practice my writing and ensure I was truly understanding the plot. Watching English movies with subtitles remained a crucial strategy, but I refined it. As I said, I started with subtitles in my native language, then moved to English subtitles. Films like Toy Story and Finding Nemo were great because they are entertaining and use clear language. As my skills improved, I moved to more complex films and TV shows. Comedies like Friends and The Office were fantastic for understanding fast, conversational English, and common idiomatic expressions. Listening to English songs also continued to play a significant role. I started with artists who have very clear lyrics, like the Beatles or Taylor Swift. I would listen to a song multiple times while reading the lyrics, then try to sing along. This is so good for your pronunciation and for remembering new words, because music connects to a different part of our brain. It makes learning feel less like a chore and more like a joyful activity. Engaging in real conversations was, of course, essential for my speaking skills. I made it a habit to practice speaking with friends who were fluent in English. At first, I was hesitant and so afraid of making mistakes, but I soon realized that speaking regularly was the single best way to build both confidence and fluency. We would have casual conversations about daily life, hobbies, and current events. These low-pressure interactions helped me get comfortable with the natural rhythm and flow of the language. I also joined English conversation clubs and language exchange programs. These provided a supportive, safe environment where I could practice speaking with both native speakers and other learners. In these clubs, we often played language games, discussed books or movies, and shared cultural experiences. These activities were not only fun but also highly educational, as they allowed me to use English in a wide variety of contexts. Using language learning apps continued to be an effective strategy. Apps like Duolingo, Memrise, and Anki offered interactive exercises that kept my learning engaging. The spaced repetition systems in apps like Anki were a game changer for vocabulary. They helped me remember words far more effectively than just rereading a list. I often use these apps during short breaks or while commuting, making good use of my time. Writing remained a key focus. I continued my daily journal, and I noticed my entries becoming more detailed and sophisticated. This practice helped me apply what I had learned in a practical way, and significantly improved my writing fluency over time. To further improve my grammar and vocabulary, I used online resources like the Purdue OWL website, which offered clear explanations and exercises. I dedicated specific times each week to focus on grammar, tackling one rule at a time. This systematic approach helped me understand the structure of the language better and reduce the number of mistakes I made. Listening to English podcasts was another strategy that proved highly beneficial. Podcasts cover such a wide range of topics. Shows like The Daily from the New York Times and TED Talks Daily were informative and helped me get used to different accents and speaking speeds. I would listen during my morning walks or while doing household chores, turning passive activities into valuable learning opportunities. Engaging with English-speaking communities online also played a crucial role. I joined forums and social media groups focused on my interests, like technology and travel. Participating in discussions and reading posts by native speakers exposed me to colloquial language and current slang. It also provided opportunities to ask questions and get feedback. Another effective strategy was setting very specific, achievable goals. I broke down my learning into smaller, manageable tasks, such as learn 10 new idioms this week or complete one chapter of a book. These short-term goals kept me motivated and provided a constant sense of accomplishment. I tracked my progress in a journal, which helped me see how far I had come and reinforced the importance of consistency. Finally, incorporating English into my hobbies made learning more relevant and enjoyable. For instance, I love cooking, so I started following English language cooking blogs and watching cooking shows on YouTube. This not only improved my language skills but also enriched my culinary knowledge. Throughout this phase, I realized the importance of having a positive mindset and real perseverance. There were times when progress felt slow, but I reminded myself that every small step forward was a step toward fluency. Celebrating these milestones, no matter how minor, was key. Each new word, each successful conversation, each finished book was a victory. By developing and refining these strategies, I was able to make steady progress and, most importantly, I made the learning process enjoyable and sustainable. Part 3. Overcoming obstacles. Of course, my journey was not always smooth. There were many times when I felt stuck, frustrated, and completely discouraged. Learning a new language is rarely a straight path, and English, with its numerous exceptions and irregularities, presented many challenges. One of the biggest hurdles for me was mastering English grammar. Unlike the more straightforward grammar of my native language, English seemed to have countless rules with even more exceptions. For instance, understanding when to use the different tenses like the past perfect versus the simple past was very confusing. To tackle this, I dedicated extra time to studying grammar through various resources. I used grammar books, online tutorials, and educational videos that provided clear explanations and examples. Practicing exercises regularly helped reinforce these concepts, but the real key was repetition and persistence. Despite my efforts, I would often find myself making the same mistakes over and over again. This was incredibly frustrating, but I learned to approach these errors with curiosity instead of self-criticism. Each mistake highlighted an area that needed more attention. I continued to keep my daily journal, and this practice allowed me to track my progress and see patterns in my errors. For example, I noticed I frequently mixed up its and its or used incorrect prepositions. By identifying these recurring mistakes, I could focus my efforts on correcting them specifically. Joining online forums and language exchange programs was another strategy that significantly helped me overcome obstacles. Platforms like Reddit's, language learning forums, and websites like italki connected me with native speakers and fellow learners. These interactions provided real-life practice and immediate feedback, which was crucial for improvement. Speaking with native speakers exposed me to natural language use and colloquial speech that textbooks often overlook. Participating in these programs was both challenging and rewarding. Initially, I felt nervous and self-conscious, fearing judgment for my mistakes. However, I quickly realized that these fears were unfounded. Most native speakers were incredibly patient and supportive, appreciating my efforts to learn their language. They offered constructive feedback and corrections, which helped me refine my speaking skills. In return, I helped them with my native language, creating a mutually beneficial learning experience. Another particularly effective method for overcoming the obstacle of forgetting vocabulary was using spaced repetition systems, SRS. I used apps like Anki to create digital flashcards. The SRS algorithm would schedule reviews of these cards at optimal intervals, ensuring that I revisited information just before I was likely to forget it. This method significantly improved my retention of new vocabulary. I also made physical flashcards and put sticky notes around my living space, keeping new words in sight and in mind. To further improve my listening skills, I started listening to English language podcasts and audiobooks. This immersion helped me get used to different accents and speeds of speech. Podcasts like This American Life were particularly engaging. I would listen to episodes multiple times, each time picking up new details. Audiobooks were also a great benefit, and by following along with the written text, I could see how words were spelled and structured. Watching English TV shows and movies without any subtitles was another challenging but highly effective practice. This forced me to rely solely on my listening skills and my understanding of the context. I chose shows with clear dialogue and everyday scenarios like Modern Family. This method also exposed me to cultural references and slang, enriching my overall language comprehension. Writing was another area where I faced significant challenges. Composing essays or even simple paragraphs in English required careful thought. To improve, I started writing more frequently, not just in my journal, but also by participating in online writing communities. Websites like Wattpad offered platforms where I could share my work and receive feedback. This practice helped me develop a clearer, more coherent writing style. I also used online tools like Grammarly to check my grammar, learning from the corrections it suggested. There were moments when I felt overwhelmed by the sheer volume of new information. To manage this, I broke down my learning into smaller, manageable tasks. Instead of trying to learn 50 new words at once, I focused on mastering 5 each day. This approach made the learning process more sustainable and less intimidating. I also set specific, achievable goals, like holding a 10-minute conversation in English. Achieving these goals provided a sense of accomplishment and kept me motivated. Throughout it all, maintaining a positive mindset was crucial. There were days when progress felt slow or non-existent. During these times, I reminded myself of how far I had come and the progress I had already made. Celebrating small victories was essential. I also surrounded myself with supportive friends and language partners who encouraged me. Overcoming obstacles in language learning requires patience, persistence, and a willingness to embrace challenges. Each setback truly is an opportunity to learn and grow. Part 4. Making progress. Slowly but surely, I started to notice my progress. The journey had been filled with challenges, but each small victory along the way reinforced my determination and showed me that my hard work was paying off. These moments of realization were not just milestones, they were powerful affirmations that I was on the right path. One of the most memorable milestones was the first time I understood an entire conversation in English without needing to translate it in my head. It happened during a casual coffee chat with an English-speaking friend. We were discussing everyday topics, and I suddenly realized that I was fully engaged, thinking and responding in English without mentally switching back to my native language. This breakthrough gave me a tremendous boost in confidence. It felt like a barrier had been lifted. As I continued to immerse myself in the language, writing emails and essays became less daunting. Initially, writing in English was a slow and painstaking process. But over time, as I practiced writing daily in my journal and online, my sentences started to flow more naturally. I began to enjoy the process of expressing my thoughts in English. A particularly rewarding experience was when I wrote my first essay for an English class and received positive feedback from my instructor. It was a significant validation of my progress. Thinking in English was another huge milestone. At first, it was a conscious effort, but with consistent practice, I began to notice I was starting to think in English without even trying. My internal dialogues, my plans for the day, they began occurring naturally in English. This shift made a huge difference in my fluency, as it meant I could form sentences and express ideas more quickly. I also saw substantial progress in my listening skills. The first time I watched an entire movie without subtitles and understood almost everything was a major achievement. It proved that my listening skills had advanced to a new level. Similarly, the moment I finished reading my first English novel without needing to constantly reference a dictionary was incredibly satisfying. It opened up a new world of literature and information. Speaking in English became increasingly comfortable and enjoyable. One notable moment was during a language exchange event where I spoke with native English speakers for over an hour without feeling overwhelmed. The conversation flowed naturally, and I could see that my skills had reached a level where I could comfortably engage in extended discussions. Another significant moment was when I began to use idiomatic expressions and colloquialisms correctly. Understanding and using these phrases appropriately was challenging. The first time I used an idiom correctly in a conversation and received an appreciative nod from a native speaker was a moment of real pride. Participating in online communities continued to contribute to my progress. These interactions allowed me to ask questions and receive feedback, which was invaluable for refining my language skills. Being part of a community of learners created a supportive environment where I could practice and improve continuously. One of the most significant measures of my progress was my improved ability to understand and engage with English language media. Watching news broadcasts and documentaries without subtitles became a regular practice. Understanding complex topics was a clear indicator that my comprehension skills had reached an advanced level. Reflecting on my journey, I realized that making progress was not just about reaching specific milestones, but about the continuous effort and dedication I put in. Each step, no matter how small, contributed to my overall improvement. Celebrating these milestones kept me motivated and reminded me that every bit of effort was bringing me closer to my goal of fluency. Part 5. My key tips and strategies summarized. Through my experience, I found several tips and strategies to be particularly helpful. I want to summarize them for you here as a clear, actionable guide. First, consistency is key. This is perhaps the most critical aspect. Practicing a little every day is far more effective than cramming once a week. I made sure to dedicate at least 15 to 30 minutes every single day to English. This consistent daily practice reinforces what you've learned and makes it easier to retain new information. Second, engage with different media. Don't just use one method. Books, movies, music, and podcasts all offer unique learning opportunities. Reading improves your vocabulary and grammar. Watching movies and TV shows improves your listening and understanding of conversational English. Listening to music helps with pronunciation and rhythm, and podcasts expose you to different accents and topics. Third, speak as much as possible. Speaking is essential for solidifying your learning. You must seek every opportunity to converse in English. Join conversation clubs, find language exchange partners online, or even just talk to yourself. The more you practice speaking, the more confident you will become. Fourth, use technology. We are so lucky to have incredible tools at our fingertips. Language learning apps like Duolingo and Memrise make learning fun. Spaced repetition systems like Anki are a superpower for memorizing vocabulary, and grammar tools like Grammarly can help you improve your writing. Fifth, join a community. Learning a language can feel isolating, but being part of a community provides support, encouragement, and practice opportunities. Join study groups, find language exchange partners, and participate in online forums. This creates a sense of accountability and motivates you to keep going. A few other quick tips. Immerse yourself by changing your phone's language to English. Set achievable goals to stay motivated. Be patient and persistent. Remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And finally, celebrate your milestones, no matter how small. By incorporating these tips and strategies into my daily routine, I was able to make steady progress. Each method complemented the others, creating a comprehensive and engaging learning experience that not only improved my language skills but also made the process enjoyable and rewarding. Looking back on my journey, from those first frustrating days to where I am now, I realized that learning English is not just about mastering a language. It's a journey of persistence, resilience, and embracing new challenges. Each obstacle I faced and each mistake I made was an opportunity to learn and grow. Through dedication and perseverance, I was able to overcome those challenges and make significant progress. To anyone who is embarking on a similar path, I want to encourage you to keep pushing forward, even when it feels difficult. Learning a new language is a journey filled with ups and downs, but each step forward, no matter how small, brings you closer to your goals. Remember to be patient with yourself, celebrate your achievements, and never be afraid to ask for help when you need it. With dedication and the right strategies, you absolutely can achieve your English learning goals. Whether you're aiming to improve your fluency for academic, professional, or personal reasons, know that it is possible with consistent effort and a positive mindset. The rewards are immeasurable, opening doors to new opportunities, new connections, and new experiences that will enrich your life in countless ways. So, my question for you today is, what is the number one strategy from my journey that you are most excited to try this week? Is it labeling items in your house? Starting a daily journal? Or maybe finding a language exchange partner? Share your commitment in the comments below. Let's inspire and support each other. As you continue on your language learning journey, I wish you the best of luck and happy learning. Please like, share, and subscribe to the Wisdom English podcast channel to watch our next videos. Thank you for joining me today.